back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Adams, and joining me tonight, as always, my co-host,
the other Mike Adams. Hey, what's up?
Don't forget, we are part of the Outdoor Radio Network. Go over to their website and check out the other outdoor-related podcasts. So, let's get into the show, Michael. We had quite a bit going on this week.
Yeah, it was fun.
And, man, we got a lot to pack in the show.
Yeah.
This is, I think we're going to have a lot to tell everybody this week.
Yeah.
But first of all, man, spring is finally getting here.
Yeah.
Once and for all. How many times in the last 2 months or a month will we said, oh, we've had bad weather?
Like every time.
You know, and we put off our turkey trip that we're going to go to Ohio because of the weather a couple weeks ago.
I think we had to put it off twice, didn't we?
I know of at least once. I don't know. We were thinking about putting it off this week, and actually we got lucky and we didn't have to. So that's coming up later in the show, everybody. But, man, spring, I think spring's finally getting here.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because we went down there and it was a little warmer, but, you know, we saw turkey this week behind our house.
Yeah.
First time this year we saw 4. Nice gobbler and 3 hens. And gobbler, he had a nice little beard on him. Problem is, the farmer behind us don't let us hunt the property, so we get to look at them, but we don't get to hunt them. And something else that's been, I've seen on one of the web forums that I go to quite regularly, guys are starting to see a lot of woodchucks or groundhogs. And actually this week while we were gone, I guess they saw one out in the backyard.
Yeah, we saw 2 on the side of the road alive.
Yeah, we seen one on the side of the road heading down.
I saw a few dead. And,
you know, then we had one here in the backyard while we were gone. That's what the girls said. So guys on the website are talking a lot about them, getting out and hammering a few of them. So, you know what? Nature's starting to wake up. Also, I noticed on the website, there's guys that are getting out, getting ready to start tap trees for maple syrup.
Yeah.
That's big. I don't know if it's big, but people do it here in Michigan. They make
up
their
in
own.
Canada.
Well, I don't know about up there. They'll be waiting a while. But, you know, people make their own maple syrup. So typically the end of February, the first part of March, people start tapping trees. So
don't we have maple trees?
Don't be drilling holes in my trees. I can see it now. I'm going to come home and all my trees are going to have holes all drilled in them with buckets under them. But, yeah, man, nature's starting to wake up. Ducks and geese are starting to come back. We saw a ton of ducks and geese on the way down to Ohio.
All the little puddle ponds.
Yeah. Everything from, like, about 40 miles south of Michigan. The grass is starting to green up just a little bit. The ice is off the water, off the ponds, and off, you know, the little puddles and things like that. And everyone we saw along the freeway had duck or geese in it.
Yeah, I saw a lot of teal out there.
You know, and one thing I saw, first one I've ever seen in my life, was a snow goose.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was really cool, seeing that out there in the pond.
There were 2 of them.
On the side of the road. And, you know, I almost want to stop and take a picture of it. It was so cool. But, yeah, I mean, you know,
I don't
things are
think
happening.
the farmer would like that too much.
Well, we'd take a picture of it. I wouldn't shoot it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's a lot going on, you know. I think we're getting ready to maybe do a little crappie fishing here when the ice breaks.
Yeah.
Get out and get after those here in Michigan. The ice here, I actually saw people still ice fishing this week on one of the bigger lakes here close to home, and they were out drilling holes. So, you know.
Mom said that she saw him with a 4-wheeler out there.
Yeah, still, though, man, there's a lot of water on top of the ice.
With all the warmness coming out, too.
You know, we've had some rain, and you wonder how honeycombed that ice is getting. Matter of fact, this week we lost a fisherman out on Saginaw Bay who went through the ice. We had 2 gentlemen Friday afternoon. Well, I say fishermen. Maybe they weren't fishing, but they were out there on their snowmobiles. You know, and, man, we put the warnings out, I don't know how many times on the news. I work for a local TV station. Stay off the big water ice. It's unsafe. And we had 2 snowmobilers go through Friday afternoon. They rescued them both, and one of them, after he got to the hospital, he later died. And then later that night, during our 11 o'clock news, we had a report come out that the Coast Guard was back out there again for 3 other guys who went through the ice. And they don't know if it was a false report or if somebody did go through. They said they saw 3 headlights on the ice, and they disappeared. So they sent the crews out. They didn't find anything. They called the search off this weekend, and nobody's been reported missing, so we don't know if it was just a mistake or what. But, guys, anybody here in Michigan that's fishing, ice fishing still, stay off the big waters. It's too dangerous. You know, we've had too much warm weather here in the recent week and a lot of rain. And the cutters, I know they said one of the cutters up in Lake Superior was heading out of Duluth, Minnesota, starting to cut ice up on Lake Superior. They're getting ready to open shipping channels, so we're getting some good west and southwest breezes now to warm up the air around here. And when you get west and southwest breezes here in the eastern part of Michigan, that means it's blowing the ice offshore. Well, if you're on the ice and it's blowing it offshore, guess where you're going to wind up?
Out in the middle.
Out in the middle of the lake. Okay, you'll either end up at the bottom of the lake or you'll end up being rescued by the Coast Guard. So, spring's here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a sure sign of it. I mean, we kind of chuckle about it, but it's sad. We do lose fishermen seems like every year we lose somebody in the spring because they're too stubborn to stay off the ice. And I know the Saginaw River, where they had the big walleye tournament here. Oh, I want to say back in the middle of March, or not middle of March, middle of February, which was just a little over a month ago, about 5 weeks ago. That's already completely open this week. Last week it was froze over. This week the whole river's open. There's people out there in boats fishing right now. We saw that Friday afternoon. So, it's just going to be a matter of time. We're going to be getting the rod and reels out and getting the boat ready.
Shotguns ready.
Getting the shotguns ready for turkey season. That's coming. We got a lot to talk about on turkey this week. Like I said, we made our trip to Ohio, and we've been talking. I've said this I don't know how many times for the last month and a half, 2 months.
Kind of like the weather.
Yeah, I kind of like the weather. That I was going to get an interview with my buddy who went down during deer season to Missouri, and they did a self-guided deer hunt. And I wanted to kind of get that interview out because I knew turkey season was coming up. And I knew we were going to do a self-guided hunt, so I kind of wanted to get the interview so we could help other guys out there kind of start to prepare either for a turkey hunt or possibly a deer hunt next year. And lo and behold, we finally hooked up and I got the interview. And it's with a friend of mine, Ken Johnson, who lives right here in the mid-Michigan area, real close to us. Actually, we do a little bit of construction work together, and we hooked up this week. He had a day off, I had a day off, and we sit down and we talk. Good little interview here, almost 20 minutes long. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll do the interview because we need to get our break in before we start it so we don't have to cut it up right in the middle. So hang with us, folks. We're going to stop right here, take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our interview.
If you're looking for the best in outdoor hunting and fishing podcasts, look no further than the Outdoor Radio Network. Each week we have dozens of podcasts devoted to outdoor sports, with shows like On the Water with Bob Murray, Bass Champ Journal, Surf and Shore Fishing, just to name a few. Check out all outdoor podcasts on the OutdoorRadioNetwork.com.
Welcome back, everybody. And okay, Michael, we promised him the interview. So with Ken, my buddy, and let's get right to it. Here's the interview with Ken Johnson. So joining me today, Ken Johnson, a good friend of mine. We've had one hunting encounter together on a turkey trip actually a turkey hunt back here behind your place last year. But this past deer season, you and your brother-in-law, I understand, took an out-of-state trip.
Yep.
And where did you guys go?
We went to northern Missouri, just over the border from Iowa.
Okay. And why did you decide to go out of state? I mean, instead of hunting Michigan for deer season?
Well, we've never had very little private land to hunt on. We've always hunted state and public land. And to find a decent spot without, hunting pressure and different hunters that you can get along with, we've had different encounters over the years and thought that it'd be nice, and we've talked about it for a while, of trying an out-of-state hunt.
Okay.
Just try it, see what's different in other states versus Michigan.
See if something some other state had something a little better to offer.
Yeah.
I know when you get up in the woods here in Michigan, they say it's like Vietnam. On opening day, you've got orange behind every tree, so to speak. So you went to northern Missouri. Now, why did you pick northern Missouri?
Well, two things kind of led to that. I mean, in the deer hunting world, everybody knows that Iowa's got big deer and whatnot.
Okay.
But to draw a buck tag in Iowa is a little more difficult, plus a little more costly. And on a lower budget, Missouri, you can get the tag real easy, and it's a lot less money. Roughly $110 is 2 turkey tags and 2 deer tags.
Okay.
And you can shoot 1 buck in bow season before their gun season, and you can use that other tag for a doe, or after their gun season you can use it on a second buck.
Okay.
So cost-wise was one reason, and then have gone out there before, don't tie up a lot of money into it for more of a scouting outing, your first time out possibly, than
Okay.
tying up a bunch of money into going to Iowa and then not knowing for sure what's going to happen.
Okay. You said something talking about scouting. Did you go down and pre-scout before you went and hunted, actually?
Yes, we did. Another thing that kind of led to this trip is I have a brother-in-law that has a friend in Iowa,
Okay.
and so he's got some contacts in Iowa, and he'll go out there every year. And this past spring, we got hooked up. We invited them to go on our fishing trip to Arkansas.
Okay.
And so on our fishing trip, we, of course, going to talk hunting and fishing and all kinds of stuff. And he gave us some little bit of insight into where to possibly go, and kind of mentioned the fact that the deer don't know the borders between Iowa and Missouri. So if you're hunting, northern, Missouri, you're getting a lot of the same generics in the deer that you
Okay.
would in Iowa. So
So geographically, it's the same area, same terrain and everything.
Yes,
if you're
yeah.
hunting near the border.
actually, the one spot that we scouted was actually just a mile and a half over the border
Okay.
in Missouri. I mean,
Okay.
we're right there on the line. So that was kind of our ideal pick in this particular area. We had a guy to give us a little bit of information where to start and whatnot. So then we did make a trip down in it was early August.
Okay.
We went down to do some scouting around, and we had the information that this gentleman gave us, and then we got on the internet and looked up any type of public access land in northern Missouri in that general radius when we went down there.
Okay.
So we went down and started scouting this one area over, which looked real decent and whatnot, and then moved on to another spot, and that looked promising, but was a lot more open, and it looked like, for the most part, to get anywhere in good area, it was going to be at least a mile and a half, walk back into the thicker stuff. And so we come back to where we originally started, and we actually run into conservation officer.
Okay.
And so we had a nice conversation with him, and he actually pointed out that the land that we had just come from, there was 2 big groups of guys from Michigan that hunt that every year, and he said that the 2 groups that are there pretty much cover that whole area. So he said, that might not be the best spot. And then where we were looking, he says, it's a decent area, but he said as far as gun season goes, the locals just hammer that during gun season. And then he also pulled out a map and showed us another spot that we had not seen when we looked on the internet prior to that. And so he gave us directions and told us a few of the ins and outs about that. So we went over to that piece of property and got real excited. We seen a lot of good signs. We jumped a real nice buck when we were scouting in that area there, and had a lot of high hopes, about that particular area there when we left.
Now, after you came back, is there anything that you found out later that you'd have done different had you scouted? Had you known it before you went down scouting? That you would have changed?
The thing is what we found out is it's good to scout, more than just where you think. Have options on, what to do. Because as we found out, when we did go back, the area where we jumped the nice buck, it looked the best and everything. You're not going to know how many other guys are going to hunt that until you get there. And when we did get there, we found that it was already pretty saturated with hunters. Every parking lot we pulled into had between 6 and 10 vehicles in it. And so then for a fallback, we went back to the very first place that we scouted down there, and at the one end there was nobody there. So that's where we started, thinking, all right, we'll start there and we're going to hunt for the whole week. We'll keep an eye on these others, during midday go over and talk to some of these, different hunters and, find out where they're hunting, what kind of, success are they having and whatnot. And but as it turns out, we had good success just right there. Okay. But we really did enjoy talking to all the hunters. Everybody that goes out of state to hunt pretty much are dedicated, true hunters, and you'll get good information. I mean, no one's really, saying this is their secret little spot or anything like that. Everybody, come to hunt. There's room for everybody. And so as long as you kind of know where this party is hunting and that party is hunting, and you're not, trouncing through, during peak hunting hours, everybody gets along real good, and there's room for a lot of hunters out there. If they're spending money on it and going out of state, they're not there to hoop it up and have a good time. They're serious hunters. Yeah, they're definitely serious hunters, and met quite a few nice people. We've run into people from, 7 or 8 different states, and so it was, it was good to then talk to them about their home state, and hunting in their home state and why they don't, hunt there as much, and go out of state as well too. So you get, the more you talk, the more information you get. You just kind of gathering information from different hunters, the COs, and what have you. Yep. Okay. Now, when you went down, were you rifle hunting or bow hunting? Bow hunting. We basically strictly went for the bow hunting. And in Missouri, their gun season starts just a little earlier than ours, and theirs happens to be right in the peak of rut. Okay. So we wanted to hunt that first, let's say the pre-rut week, with first week in November, and we definitely seen good movement in the deer, and then just driving. We weren't hunting Iowa, but driving around in midday in Iowa, it was unbelievable. Just seeing the big bucks, and chasing, running the fence lines and stuff like that. Get your blood pumping. Oh yeah, it was quite amazing. Now, when you went down, you took your own camper. Yes. And when you pre-planned your trip, did you make like a checklist, and did you divide it up with your brother-in-law so you guys didn't take the same type of gear? Yes. We've hunted together a lot, and we use a trailer here in Michigan, being that we've always hunted, state land. So we have a lot of, general things that we know between us, who takes care of what, and it works out. We both have trailers, but it works out best. I can put a nice insulation package in ours, so it doesn't matter, the weather, and that works well. But as what we did do is we really talked about the number of tree stands we were going to bring, and the number of ladder sticks and things like that. And we both have collapsible carts for wheeling deer out, and we did have to pare down on that, since we thought about, when we get out there, how many tree stands are we going to set, depending on, the wind and the weather conditions, to be able to move around. So we wanted to bring, enough stands, but then we talked about, cutting back on the number of, like ladder sticks, we could move them, a little bit and stuff like that. Right. Yeah, just so you weren't too overloaded down for a long trip like that.
Okay. When you started planning, like you said, you guys were down fishing in the spring talking about this.
Yep.
How long did it take you to actually get everything together and plan? How far in advance, say we're going to do a fall hunt in the same area, general area, how long do you need to plan something like that?
Well, that could, vary a lot, because we've actually talked for a couple years previous to this, that we would like to do that. I would, definitely say that if you're thinking about doing it, it would be a real good idea to be able to have a weekend in, late summer that you could possibly, run there. If you had no other, possibly you might have, someone in another state that, give you, a good starting point, and you could, if you had a week, you could go out there and the first day or two scout and then set up stands or whatnot. But if you're going fresh into an area, unless you were going to go out there to hunt for, let's say, over a week, maybe 10 days or something like that, I would think that you would definitely need some pre-scouting to have a general idea where to start, but then also be able to be flexible enough to go with the flow, whatever the conditions might be when you get there as well.
And kind of like you said, you pulled up and there's hunters in that area. You got to have an alternate plan.
Right, exactly.
And you don't want to blow a whole week or maybe a 4-day hunt because you didn't prepare an alternate site.
Exactly.
Okay. Since you got back and you look back on everything, is there anything that you would do differently now being back home and had a chance to look at it that you would plan differently?
Well, one thing is this gentleman that we knew from Iowa had a sister that had a farm real close to it actually was in Iowa, but close to the border of Missouri, and allowed us to park our travel trailer at her farm, which gave us electricity and water, which turned out extremely nice. And thinking that our first spot that we wanted to hunt was only less than 5 miles from our house. We was thinking that was going to be, the ideal, location. And when we moved to the other location, that was more like a 30-mile one-way trip. We may have wanted to stay right there and not be driving, back and forth as much, with the price of gas and whatnot. It did cost us more in gas than we originally planned. But, no, for our first, time down there, I think that things went, real well as far as hunting goes. Once we got set up in that area, got talking to the other guys that's hunting in that area, you kind of, divide the area, up a little bit. Some people, stay to the north, some stay to the south, east and west. And most of the guys down there where we set up kind of give us that, corner, to hunt. And there was other guys at the other end we talked to that took deer out of there, so different, groups definitely took, deer out of, different areas. So that all worked real well. And I'd have to say that, we didn't run into anything, uncomfortable or bad situations or anything like that.
Okay. Well, while you were checking, like you said, online about license fees and all that kind of stuff in hunting areas, did you encounter anything like extra permits you had to buy, like an ORV sticker for your camper or your truck, or did they not allow, like maybe an ATV in the area? Is that obviously that's probably something you should check on?
Yeah, you definitely should check on it. And in the public area in Missouri, you are allowed to camp in them areas. They now in Michigan, when we go up, you can take your truck and camper and go back in the woods. You can pretty much camp anywhere on state land. What they require in Missouri is that they've got gravel roads going through there and gravel parking areas, and no vehicles, no ATVs are supposed to leave the gravel roads or gravel parking areas. So you can take a camper in, park there, and of course if you had a tent, they'll, there's grass areas around the, you can tent there. They just don't want you tenting back in the woods and interfering with other hunters, and they do not allow ATVs to run like the 2-trackers, back in there to retrieve deer or take stands back. So you do have to backpack your stands and
Okay.
stuff back in.
What about, like, say you wanted a recreational campfire? You have to have a permit for that, for a burn permit or anything?
No. Campfires, are allowed. It was very well posted in the areas we were at. When you went in there, at each parking lot, they had the main one would have a bulletin board and have a lot of the information on it. But then each individual parking lot had the rules for hunting and camping and stuff like that there. So yeah, there was no question or mistakes or gray areas or anything like that. It was very well labeled.
Okay. Well, I guess the big question is, are you going to do it again?
Well, we would definitely like to try different things. We won't be going back to that particular area this coming hunting season. A couple different things come up and whatnot. We are open to
Another area.
other areas. We had success, but not much different than the success that you probably have here in Michigan. My brother-in-law shot a real nice 8-point, but we've shot 8-point here in
Right.
Michigan of the same size. There's whether the deer don't know the difference between Missouri and Iowa. The hunters know it, and their rifle season kind of keeps their deer a lot like Michigan. You don't get that many of the big ones on private land. On public land. If you was to possibly get a farm, down there to hunt on, and we tried knocking on a few doors, for some farmers and that, but it's getting a little harder and harder. You're going to have to knock on quite a few doors to be able to possibly find, a farm that you could hunt on. But I think our next step would be is we'd probably like to try and see what we can do on a self-guided trip in Iowa. I think would be real nice to put in for the buck tag, and if we draw the buck tag, then be able to try that out. I think.
Okay. And you're heading back down fishing here in a month or so, right?
Oh, less than 3 weeks.
Okay. Well, maybe we can talk to you then about that and how that went on a self-guided fishing trip.
Okay, we could do that.
Alrighty. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And I know everybody listening to the show is going to appreciate the information. Hopefully help them out on their hunts.
Very good.
Thanks. So, that was the interview, Michael. What'd you think?
I think it was pretty cool.
What, did you get any good information out of it?
Yeah, actually I did. I learned to have a backup area so that way if you get skunked in your first area and people are in your spot, you have somewhere else to go, kind of like down where we hunt.
Yeah. And anything else you get out of there?
I learned that you need to have the right stickers for like campers and stuff in your cars for different areas, and know the rules. That way, if you can camp out in the woods or not.
Yeah, because being out of state is definitely a lot different than what you're used to in your home state.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, we got a lot more in the show, and we want to talk about our scouting trip to Ohio that we took, and we took some of this information with us when we went down there actually, and tried to apply it to our preseason scout for turkey. And we got some other good little tidbits of information here at the end of the show. So we're going to take a quick break. Let's get the last break of the show in, and that way we can spend the rest of the show talking. So hang with us, and we'll be right back.
If you're looking for the best in outdoor hunting and fishing podcasts, look no further than the Outdoor Radio Network. Each week we have dozens of podcasts devoted to outdoor sports, with shows like On the Water with Bob Murray, Bass Champ Journal, Surf and Shore Fishing, just to name a few. Check out all outdoor podcasts on the OutdoorRadioNetwork.com.
Welcome back, and now to the last part of the show. Normally, Michael gets to run his mouth here for Mikey's game bag, but we'll put that off to a little bit later, okay?
Okay.
Sorry. We got a couple of things to wrap up here. Now, we just got done talking about the interview here with Ken, and he talked a lot about preseason scouting, especially if you're going to take these self-guided hunts and going into a new area. And that's kind of where we're at with turkey season this year, Michael.
Yeah.
Going down to Ohio and everything for our first hunt this year. And we hooked up this weekend with our brother-in-law, Jim, and we finally made it down there. So we got to plan the weekend. We took off early Saturday morning, loaded up, took Jake with us.
Early,
yeah, really. We left here, I think it was by 5:30 in the morning.
That's
Got down.
actually what time I get up for school, so it really wasn't that early.
Wasn't too bad for you. But we got down to near Dayton, Ohio this morning, or not this morning, Saturday morning, and picked him up, and then we went over to Vinton County where we're going to turkey hunt. And that was another 3-hour drive. So we got over there, it was probably 12:30, 1 o'clock-ish, I think, by the time we got back into the area. And on the way down, we didn't see one turkey in a field anywhere on the way down.
The only thing we saw was a few ducks and a few geese.
We saw a lot of ducks and a lot of geese. Saw a few deer.
Yeah.
And, even when we got to Dayton and we drove over to Vinton County, we didn't see anything there. And we took a lot of back country roads, rural roads. And, I was
kind of hawks, though.
I was getting a little discouraged on the way over. I didn't know if it was that area that just didn't have turkey in it, or I really wasn't thinking about the time of year, I guess, that the turkey are not really out yet. They're not really getting with it. And we got over there, started driving around in the area where we're going to hunt through the woods and things on the 2 tracks and back where he had actually seen turkey back during deer season this year. So, we started scouting, got out and started doing a lot of walking, and we weren't seeing any sign. We weren't seeing any turkey droppings. We weren't seeing any feathers. We weren't seeing any tracks. And we did quite a bit of walking there for a while and just weren't coming up with anything. And the land over there's got some clear cuts in it where the paper company come through and cut a lot of the hillsides, and cleared them out. But
yeah, this is really hilly.
Oh, hilly is not the word. I mean, you're up and down, up and down, up and down. And that's the
most of it's just straight vertical.
There's a lot of vertical drops. There's a couple of little sheer cliffs. I mean, we're not talking 1,000 feet, but we're talking 100 feet, a couple 100 feet, some of these drops. Yeah. So, you got to have your wits about you. You just can't go traipsing off through the woods and not being paying attention. So, but, I was getting a little discouraged not seeing anything. But the area itself looked like it could hold turkey. I mean, there was some good areas. It looked like there would be plenty of birds there. And, he was saying that he had seen birds there in the past. So when we finally got down to it and got back into an area where he knew he saw birds when he was hunting right from the area he was at for deer season, we got to looking and we were following a ridge line around and we started seeing scratchings where it looks like turkey had been scratching.
It kind of looked like a squirrel going through snow.
Well, it was a big areas of leaves raked back, and like that's too big to be a squirrel, where they dig in the ground. Typically their spots probably no bigger than a baseball. And these things were huge, and it was too big for a deer to be browsing. It just didn't look right. But you couldn't see tracks because it was in the leaves, number one. But secondly, we weren't seeing any turkey droppings either or feathers. So I'm like, well, maybe it is a scratch area, maybe it's not. We're looking for some trees that could possibly roost in, and there wasn't a lot. There were a few around, but it just wasn't screaming to me roosting area,
Yeah.
So we started trying to look for those and looking up on some ridge lines and things like that. And we actually got out of that little side woodlot there where the scratchings were and started following the 2-track up. And it was there we saw our first track in the road.
Yeah, it was in a bunch of mud because the roads were all muddy.
Yeah, and there was fresh tracks of a car track that had went through there within the last half a day. And the turkey track was right on top of it. So we knew that turkey track was relatively fresh, probably that morning. And that was really exciting to actually physically see of a sign that, hey, there are birds here.
And it was a big track, too.
Oh, it was huge. For you guys who don't know, if you're tracking birds and you're looking for toms, because obviously that's what we're trying to shoot is toms, when you look at a turkey track, they got 3 toes. And the 2 out to the side, if you brought them together right up next to the middle toe, and that middle toe is quite a bit longer than the other 2, then you're looking at a tom. Okay, that's what we look for toms. If it's relatively the same size, it's either a young jake or a hen. Okay, but for the big toms, the longer that middle toe is, the bigger the bird is typically. So we saw a track and we're like, okay, cool. We're on some birds. We know there's a bird here, at least one,
yeah,
and he's a big one. So we got to scurrying around a little more there, really starting to expect the 2-track as we were walking along. and it looked like we found another set of tracks besides his. Okay, like I said, there's a lot of leaves in the area, so we're kind of picking our way through, and the road was gravel, so that's what made it even harder to try to pick the tracks up. There wasn't a lot of mud or dirt there to really look at, and it looked like we picked up a second track, and as they were walking, you could see off to the sides in a couple areas where they'd been scratching. They'd raked them leaves out, which gave us a little more confirmation and confidence that we were on the right track. And we followed a ridge line on up to the
top of the hill.
To the top of the hill, and there's a little clearing up there where the clear cut actually kind of started and rolled off the back side of the hill, and the grass was starting to green up there a little bit, and that's where we found turkey droppings in that area there. So we found 3 really good confirmations of sign. We found the tracks, we found the droppings, and we found the scratching areas. So we actually didn't find a good roosting tree that had droppings around it. That's another way to find a roosting tree without birds actually being in them or seeing them fly up. If you walk up next to a tree and you see droppings around that tree, real close proximity, the birds are roosting in that tree. They're dropping it down on the ground, obviously. And that's another good way to find a roosting area. If you find feathers around the area, too, that's obviously a good sign that they're in the area. So, that's kind of what we were after. It's kind of what we were looking for. So, what did you think about the whole trip that we went down and everything? I mean, what was your take on it? That was your first real, quote-unquote, scouting trip.
A lot of walking.
A lot of walking, yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool how you go around and basically like playing army in the woods.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Looking for the enemy, huh?
Yeah. Looking for the footprints.
Yeah, trying to find footprints, trying to find signs of where they were at. Another thing you need to look for is sources of water. They've got to have water.
Well, scratchings and all the footprints and stuff was right by a stream.
Right near, real close proximity to stream, probably 50 yards away, to a little tiny, and I'm talking tiny, it's basically a runoff stream off of a hillside,
It kind of looked like a little river that goes to a drainage thing, like in a parking lot.
Yeah, what was it? Maybe a foot wide?
Yeah.
So, it wasn't wide, but the water was moving pretty quickly through it.
Yeah, when we crossed it, Jacob's like, oh, this thing's big, and he just jumps in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's typical for him. Water or mud, and he's in it. But they've got to have water, so that's another thing. One thing that kind of threw me off track when I was looking, and I kind of had to think and put 2 and 2 together. When we're looking for turkey droppings, basically they're about as big around as your little finger, and not much longer than your little finger. But they're usually white. But that's when they're eating insects. When they're eating a lot of insects, it's going to be a lot whiter looking material, like you think of bird droppings. Okay, and the ones we saw, the first one I saw was brown. And then the second one I saw was a little less brown, maybe a little bit of white mixed in. I got to think, this time of year, they're just coming out of winter, okay?
There's no bugs alive.
There's no bugs. Yeah, we didn't see any bugs. So they're eating seeds and things like that.
Twigs.
They're eating plant material. That's what they're browsing on. So that's why we're looking, number one, up in that little clear-cut area where the green was. A little bit of green grass. They're finding little seed particles and pieces of acorn or whatever they're eating at that time. So it's going to be typically darker than it would be later on in the spring when you're finding it when it's white, when they're eating bug matter. And on a tom or a jake, it's also got a J shape to it. A hen's dropping is straight, whereas a jake or a tom is hook-shaped.
J for Jake, I guess.
I don't know why, but that's the rule of thumb of what I've always been told. So
maybe they do a little dance.
I don't know. Maybe they do. I'm not sure. But that's what everybody, all the seminars I've been to, everybody says it's J-shaped. That's what you look for. That's a tom or that's a jake. So, but we look for a backup area, and really that's the only spot we had time to really look hard and try to find tracks. But what we did find, driving around the area, number one, the place is huge, a lot of land. And we found some places where it looked like it'd be really good turkey cover or turkey areas for turkey to be. So what we're going to do, I'm kind of like a run and gun type guy. That's what I like to do. So
yeah, that's what I like to do, even though I've only hunted 1 year.
We've got that opportunity of that one spot we found to kind of set up. And if somebody's there, then obviously we're going to have to go somewhere else. But there's plenty of area where we can start the first morning. We'll just get out and we'll drive to that spot and we'll call and hopefully get some action. If not, we'll drive to a little bit down the road, stop, and we'll call again. Drive down the road and stop and call until we get on some birds, So
If not, we'll just be driving and calling all day.
Well, with the area being so big, I don't really see a problem with us finding birds as long as they're in the area. We're going to find birds. So the one thing that we took with us that really did not work, that I was a little disappointed with, we took our locator calls.
Yeah.
We didn't take any turkey calls. Guys, when you go to the woods, do not, I repeat, do not take your box call, your diaphragm call, or your friction calls. Leave them at home. You'll be tempted to use them to try to call a gobbler. Oh, yep, there's one out there. We're in the right spot. Don't do that. What's going to happen is you're educating the birds. Each time you call to a turkey, you're educating him. And if he comes looking for you, if you're in an area and he's close enough, he's going to hear that hen yelp. He's going to come looking for it. If he doesn't find one, you're less likely to call that bird in again.
That's why I educate him and then kill him.
Educate him and kill him at the same time. That's right. So do not take them. What we took...
That way they can't remember.
That's right. We took the coyote howler. We took the owl hooter. We took a hawk call.
Crow call.
And a crow call. Those are all typical locating calls. And what that does...
Or you can have gobble tubes.
It elicits what's called shot gobble. It's basically you're scaring the pants off of them. It's like when somebody comes up and gooses you, you go, woohoo, like that. You just jumped, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's what they do. Instead of them jumping, they gobble. Okay, it shocks them. It's called shot gobble. And that way you know where they're at and say, okay, we got birds in the area. You're not educating that bird. What you're doing is you're scaring them, okay? And it doesn't mean you're scaring him and he's running away. It doesn't make him run away. It just elicits that gobble for whatever reason. Like I heard one guy said, he said, I don't know, maybe it tickles the inside of their ear. I don't know. But that way you can find out if they're in the area, and then you know where to go hunt them at. So
The coyote howler echoes so loud.
Oh, well, there's so many hills there. Oh, when I hit that thing, you could hear it bounce off 3 or 4 hills, and it just, man, it roared through those hills.
They go for like 2 minutes.
And that was pretty cool to hear that. But
and then Jacob started yelling, so.
We didn't hear any gobbles. We didn't get any shot gobbles. And like I said, maybe it's the time of the year. I don't know. Maybe it's because they're not, really out, really cruising just yet. We've seen a few here in Michigan around the area, or at least I have, driving around. But they haven't really got out in droves yet. They're not really working the fields or getting out and really cruising yet, looking for those hens. So that may be all part of it. And, like I said, I was a little disappointed at first, but once we found that track, it's like, okay, game on. We know where they're at, and we're going to get out there and put the slam on them. So, but one other thing that we got to thinking and that's hard for us sometimes to get our thinking caps on. But, in Ohio, we can only hunt till noon. That's their law. At noon, you're done. So we've got from noon till dark. What are we going to do?
This is my first thought.
Was?
Go fishing.
Because there's a nice lake real close by. Like what, 3, 4, 5 miles away? Yeah, 4 or 5 miles. So we found it on the map. It's like, okay, cool, let's go check this lake out. Well, they got a nice little boat launch, and actually we found 2 lakes. Yeah. But the closest one, nice sized lake. It was probably 300-400 acres. It was huge. Not huge, but it was big enough to get a boat and a motor. And
you can only have 10 horsepower, which I only have 7.5, so. Yeah, so
we're good on that. So we said, okay, we're going to plan to do a little fishing when we're there. And when we were heading back home, we stopped at a sporting goods store. Actually, we weren't heading back home. It was later that evening. We stopped at a sporting goods store.
Actually, it took like 5 different stores.
Yeah, well, no. I'm not talking about the game guides. When we went out later that evening to eat dinner, we stopped.
Okay.
At one of the bigger, it was Dick's Sporting Goods, and they just opened a store there in the local town where my brother-in-law lives. We're real close, so we went in and checked it out. They had the fishing guides there, kind of like what we got here in Michigan. Yeah. And for those guys you don't know, there's a company. I'll put it on the website in our outline tonight, but it's a book. It's like a ring binder book, okay? And they've got all the public lakes in Michigan in this book, and it gives all.
Well, they have them for each state too.
No, they don't. Not every state. That's why I said for those of you who don't know. But here in Michigan, they've got this, and it's all the public lakes in there and river systems, And they go through and they identify what type of fish are in there. They tell the DNR stocking policy on that, when they were stocked, how big they were, and all that. And it gives you the hot spots of that lake or that stream. The drop-offs. It gives you a topographical map of that lake. I mean, it's a lot of information. And, we've got 6 or 7 different books from Michigan, and they're $20 a piece. So we're at this sporting goods store, to get back to the story here. And I'm looking, I'm like, hey, Michael, check it out. They've got them for Ohio. They had 2 books, one for Northern Ohio, one for Southern Ohio. What do? I go to the lake, man, look it up. Sure enough, man, that thing's full of crappie, full of bass, and they say it's a really good sport fishing lake. They have a lot of success there. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be hammering them there in the afternoon, hopefully.
Didn't you say there was some catfish in there too?
Yeah, catfish too.
That'd be good to have over there.
And then that little lake that's on down the road a piece, they've got pike in that one.
Yeah.
And they say that's a good sport fishing lake too. So we're going to hunt turkey, and then we're going to go and try and hook some fish, in the afternoon. And then we'll go back to camp, we'll eat, and then we'll go try to roost some birds and slam them the next morning. So that's another thought when you guys are out trying to plan your trips, and if you've got downtime during your hunt where you can't hunt maybe in the evening for whatever you're out after, try to plan something else that you can do, something else outdoorsy type thing, whether it be fishing, or maybe they got a local shooting range where you can go shoot your rifle, or maybe a bow range, or just anything, so just try to think of something like that.
That's a good idea. We could take our bows to shoot. It's
not a bad idea. Take the targets down, do some practicing. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. So, but that was it was a good trip. It was short. I mean, we put over 1,000 miles on in a day and a half. We did a lot of traveling.
For like what, $10?
No, it's more than that. I spent more than that on gas.
Yeah, you got good gas mileage though.
Yeah, I got me new little puddle jumper car that gets about 45, 50 miles a gallon. So we drove to Ohio on 5 gallons of gas and drove back on 5 gallons. But my brother-in-law drove from Dayton over there, and it took a tank full and a half, and drove half the distance. So with his truck, but
like 25 gallons.
It all worked out good. It was a well worthwhile trip. We got some information, and we got a good start for our plans. Now we've got roughly 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks now to get it together. We've got to get all of our ducks in a row, so to speak, and start and then shoot them. You get that right. So, but that was our Ohio trip, man. I mean, for a day and a half travel, I think we did all right. It was a good time.
Yeah. It felt like we were down there for like a week.
Yeah, as much driving as we did, it was. I'm tired. I am tired, but. Well, speaking of turkey season getting planned up, you want to get into game bag? You want to tackle this now?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start it up. And now for the best part of the show, Mikey's game bag. Okay, well, this week on Mikey's game bag, one thing you didn't say about the Ohio trip is that we stopped at Cabela's on the way back.
I was going to get into that later on. I got it wrote down here.
Yeah, you didn't say it before the game bag though.
No, I didn't. Nope, I didn't.
But
because between our house and my brother-in-law's house, Cabela's is right off the freeway, and of course we cannot go by there without stopping. So
it killed Jake to go by there in the morning.
Oh, I know it on the way down.
It's not open.
So go ahead. I won't steal your thunder here.
Okay, so what I did was down there is they had Primos there, which is of course is like my favorite.
What a coincidence! We're going down turkey scouting. We come back and stop, and Primos has got one of their guys there.
Yeah.
Working calls.
So I tried out some of their calls. There was a call that I was looking at, but after looking at it and trying it out, I really didn't feel comfortable with it, which is kind of good because I was pumped about getting that call, but it didn't fit me right. And
sorry, I had to do that.
Yeah, because I didn't see you last time. Yeah, so I talked to them for a little while, and I actually found a new call that's really cool to use.
What's this one called?
It's called Primo's Jackpot.
Okay. What kind of call? Tell them first of all.
Oh, it's actually it's not a slate. It's a crystal call. It's made out of glass. And where's
your sandpaper at, man? This thing's getting.
Yeah.
I've already wore it out. I've got to rough it up here. It's sounding pretty bad. This
Yeah.
This is a sweet call, folks.
Yeah, it was only cost me about $20, and I really like it. One thing I talked to him about, and I saw they had tons of different strikers there. And actually, me and you, we probably bought about.
You bought 3, and I bought 2, but yours was in a 3-pack.
Mine was in a 3-pack, and it cost less than the 2 that you bought.
Yeah, I bought a couple
You
more
bought fancy
expensive ones.
smanchy ones.
If you guys hear, I'm saying in this call, for you guys who don't know, on a crystal call, a crystal slate call, it comes in slick glass.
It kills me to rough it up
And
because of how nice it looks.
What you got to rough it up.
Yeah.
Exactly. You got to condition it. Okay.
It kills me to do it.
But yeah, they got a real nice picture on it. You got to sand it off, which I don't know, man. They got to come up with some better idea than that. But
yeah, with the picture, what I did is I sanded around the picture.
nah, that thing sounds nice. Nice little cut. It's got nice tone. I tell you, I like the crystal slate call the crystal friction call that I have, but this thing sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm seriously thinking about going and buying me one of these this week over at Gander Mountain because I was amazed at the way this thing sounded. But go ahead. I'm going to play with it here while you're talking.
Well, anyways, I'm kind of getting off topic here, talking about what we bought and stuff. But mainly what I want to talk about was different strikers for friction calls. And there's tons of different strikers. Like, I've heard of guys going to, like Outdoorama and stuff like that. And they'll have people there with tons of, like, a box full of strikers, like, for $3 a piece. And you bring your call and you just try them out, different ones for different sounds.
Whatever sounds good on your call.
And,
well, why would you try different strikers to make different sounds?
So that way you can just satisfy with the turkey what they want. Different sounds for different days, different slates, different glasses for different conditions and stuff.
Everything elicits a different sound.
Yeah.
And that's important.
And what actually I was testing earlier is my 3-pack. It's got 2 smaller ones. It's got a big one, a small one, and a larger one. And what I mean by that is the diameter of the end of
the striker.
Yeah.
Okay. Now see, that's something I really didn't.
Really different edge.
I didn't pay attention to. People have got all these strikers, and they're like, well, I understand that some strikers will elicit a different sound on the same slate call, but I didn't understand why. And now that I look at them,
it's just how they're made. I mean, this one right here that I'm holding right now, it's hollowed out in the top.
Yep, it's got a hollow spot in the top of the stem, which is going to resonate a little bit. But the stem on it is on the bottom is huge.
Yeah. Compared
to this other two. You basically, when you bought these, you got three different
strikers.
One's smaller than a pencil, one's big, about the same size as a pencil,
and one's like a kindergarten pencil.
Yeah, to put it in terms like that. So it's the diameter of the end of the striker.
Yeah, or the top, and that makes the different sounds. And that's basically what I'm talking about. Is different things make different sounds for your friction calls.
And not only that, then there's different types of wood that elicit different sounds.
Like mahogany, cedar, zebra wood, which is the fancy smanchy ones that you bought.
Yep, I got the Kiki striker from Primo's, and then the what's that one? The Cuttin striker. Okay, well, just as an example, let's put these
to the test.
Let's put them all on here so you guys can hear them. Okay. Now this is which one came with yours? The double down?
No, the 777.
777. Okay. Okay. Now this is the medium one.
Because it's like the lottery. Because jackpot and 777.
Okay. Here, this is the medium one.
This is the factory one that came with it.
Okay. You hear that tone?
This is all in the same spot.
This is the double down. This one's smaller on the end. That's a little higher pitched. Okay. Now if we go with this is the Lucky Strike. This is the biggest one.
It's louder and more echoey.
Exactly, and it's a little more raspy. Now the one that I got, one of the ones I bought is the
fancy one.
The Kiki. This is made out of zebra wood. Okay. That's got. I don't know if you can hear it on the podcast or not, but that is so high pitched. It
hurts your ears.
It really hurts your ears. It's a real high pitched tone. And then here's the other one, the Cuttin striker. Okay. That one's even hurts your ears even more. Now, okay, let's hit that one again. The same one that I just had. It's almost got two little
Yeah.
sounds with it. Now, if you go, I'm hitting this right in the middle of the call. If I go to the outside edge, it gets even more high pitched. So you can move these around on the call and get a different sound even. Now, this is a slate. I'm sorry. That's the crystal. Let me put this on a slate call. See how that's a little more mellow, a little more toned down, and a little bit softer. It doesn't have that sharp raspiness to it. And I'm hitting that one right in the middle. But that's the same striker on a different call. That one's a little higher pitched, okay?
No, this one, the Lucky Striker, is basically the same thing as your zebra wood one, just mahogany, and it's different wood.
Yep. But you know what? Both those got holes in the top of them,
Yeah.
which I really didn't notice. But this is
It's the same exact thing, just different piece
Okay.
of wood.
I gotta sand that. Hang on. That's one thing about these folks is you need to keep these
sand them and
keep a
them
sandpaper with you, because what happens is the pores of the wood will fill up, and it needs to you need to clean that off, because it'll build up and
it will get filled with like dust or something.
right, and then when
Or
it does
dirt.
that, it slides and it doesn't make the vibration. That's deeper and
Yeah.
raspier. Okay, let's go back to you just heard that one. Let's go back.
This is the same one, just a different piece of wood.
See, it's a little higher
Yeah.
pitched, a little bit softer, not quite as raspy.
Yeah, and then here's the one that actually came with the slate, which is basically
This is the one that came with this.
yeah.
A lot
Which,
softer. A lot softer. You can put a little more pressure on it and get a little more tone out.
Yeah.
This looks to me like it's made out
Cedar.
of okay, cedar. I was gonna say cedar or birch.
Cedar pine.
A little bit softer wood. So you can get a lot different sounds out of them.
Actually, this looks like a dowel rod.
Yeah, that's pretty much what these are, is all dowel rods. But you get a little different tones out of them, and it just depends on what that bird likes. You know, you might hit one, and you don't get anything. You know the bird's out there. You've already heard.
Yeah.
Maybe you used a box call, or maybe you used a locator call, and he's shot gobbled, and you know he's there, and he's not answering. Get another striker out.
It makes it sound like different hens.
Give him a little something else, you know, and that lets him know, hey, you know, it might tickle inside of his ear and say, hey, okay, there's one, I like that, I'm going after that. Or like you said, if you got different strikers out, make it sound like different birds. You know, use one a little bit and then use another a little bit, and it gives them the illusion that there's more than one bird out there.
Or it
one
helps
hen.
if you have multiple callers.
That too. If you got two guys, like what we're going to do, we're going to tag team. Get one guy on a box call, one guy using a slate call, or whatever your preference is. I mean, it can be two guys on a box. Each have a box call. They're different. Make sure you got different box calls.
I feel a lot more comfortable with slates and friction calls.
So, but
My main message to you guys about this Mikey's game bag is have different strikers and different calls for different situations.
you can't have, well, I don't know, maybe you can't have too many. You don't want a backpack full of these things, but,
I don't know. I have a lot of duck calls.
well, same thing. You know, they all sound different. Different manufacturers, different types. I mean,
Different woods.
specifically with, like, these friction calls, what we call pot calls or slate calls, or these crystals calls. They make so many different kinds out of slate. They make them out of crystal. They make
Aluminum, brass.
aluminum, brass, tin. There's all different kinds.
The one that I was going to buy is Frictionite, and if it gets wet, you can still use it.
That's right. You were talking about the freak.
Yeah.
That was the Primos freak, the one that goes
it's
on
the
your
one
knee.
that goes on your knee, but, I mean, I tried holding it in my hand, and I couldn't hold it. I mean, it was like falling on my hand. I just didn't feel comfortable with it.
Well, it's because it was so big. It had that
Yeah.
knee cup on
It's
there.
like a bowl.
But what I did like about it, like you said, the Frictionite, which allows you to use it in wet situations.
And that's what's also good about these crystals. You can use them.
You can use those in a wet situation. A slate call, when they get wet,
They do
s-
nothing.
they don't do anything.
They do squat.
They're no good to you.
Basically,
you might as well put it in
just
your bag.
throw it away.
No, don't throw them
Oh,
away.
yeah.
Put them in your bag, because you're not going to be able to call with them. And that's what I liked about that Frictionite, is that it was able to use that in multiple situations, whether it be damp or dry. So
Yeah.
that's something else to think about.
And another thing to have is an organizer. Like when I was down there, I bought a pouch that holds 2 slate, 2 friction calls, like pot calls. And that's what I put mine in. It has 2 things for 2 strikers, but I have 4 different ones.
Yeah, so you got to double up on them. Then
Yeah.
it's got a little pocket on the side
Yeah.
there too for putting in your sandpaper.
Yeah.
And
It's got a hook that you just hook it on like your vest or something.
that way you can rough up the ends of your strikers and you can condition your call. And it's important to keep that with you because as you saw when I got that slate call out.
Yeah, after about 5 minutes, that thing went dead.
You need to polish them things and keep polishing them and hitting them when you're out in the field. Make sure you take your sandpaper. Another thing, if you're using...
That's what I asked you before.
Yeah, if you're using box calls, take your chalk with you. Make sure you've got chalk in your day pack, or your call bag, or whatever you're taking with you to put your stuff in.
Really, for diaphragm calls, you really don't need any extra stuff. It's just have different calls.
Different types of
It's
mouth
just like
calls.
different strikers, or that way in case if you lose one or drop it.
Best thing to do is to really try to master all three.
Yeah.
Once you get all three of them down, and you've got 2 or 3 or 4 different of each one.
Yeah.
Man, you're set. You can make it sound like a whole flock of turkeys,
Different breeds.
You can be running a mouth call at the same time you're running a box call or a friction call. And it
Good
sounds...
things about diaphragms, there's no movement.
That's true. And the strokes from the striker is so small, you can easily hide that if you're down in behind a blind or in your setup. Mouth call, same way. You're just basically vocalizing it.
Yeah.
So there's no movement there. And if you're wearing
Especially
a face
mask is even better.
they're not going to see you. Box call, you got to move that paddle. That's what you got to be careful about because they're going to see you moving that paddle.
Then hold it between your legs or something.
So, yeah, we had a good time at Cabela's. That was a...
It was packed, though.
Yeah, it was packed.
Seems like every time we go down there, there's always people on our way.
Oh, I know it. But, yeah, this call sounds good. I don't know if I can do it or not. Earlier, I was getting to where it really cut good.
Here, you have to use this one. Double down.
Yeah, I think I need to sand it again. That's how quick they wear out, really. You need to condition these things and keep your sandpaper with you. And this just goes to show you how much you need to keep it with you. But this thing, it was just... Now, folks tell me that don't sound good. If I was a Tom, I'd come after that. And my name ain't Tom. But we had a lot of fun down there. It was a lot of fun. One thing I was looking for, and I'm still looking for it, and I'm hoping to get this in a field test, and this is going to kind of lead us into our next segment here. I'm looking for that tent that fits on the back of your truck.
Pup tent.
It's called the Sports 3, and it's made by Napier Tent Company. And I'm trying to get a line on one of those. Cabela carries them. They didn't have them. They had 3 of them, but they didn't fit my truck.
And weren't they in like different boxes and stuff?
Yeah, they're rearranging some stuff down there at the store.
Their camping section is so screwed up.
Well, they were moving stuff around. They were reorganizing, and needless to say, I've got to get one ordered, and I'm hoping to do a little bit of field test with one of these.
You almost bought that one and had the wrong size.
It was the wrong size. So, but I seen them at an outdoor show here. Month and a half or 2 months ago. Actually, I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but I think we did.
Yeah, we did. The Birch Run.
Yeah, it was the Birch Run show. And I'm trying to get a hold of that guy, and we're going to get one ordered and hopefully do a little field test with that because it really looked nice. It was a slick setup. And if you guys don't like sleeping on the ground and you don't have a camper, these things are great, man. They fit right on the back of your bed of your truck. It gets you off the ground, so you don't have that cold ground on your back. But
I'm just worried about how in the bed of your truck, how it's like all rivets.
Well, I got a mat that I'm going to put in there.
Okay.
I've already got that figured out.
Like a shop mat?
I'll show you. It's going to be slick. We'll take pictures and put them on the website of how we're going to work all this out.
Take pictures of all of our camp.
But I can't remember. Did we talk last week about doing field tests and stuff like that?
No, I don't think so. We talked about these Illumitax, I think.
Okay. Well, if we did, I'm sorry, but I'm going to reiterate this a little bit. We're hooking up with a couple different companies, and we're going to start field testing some gear, and we're going to start bringing that to you on the podcast. And the first thing that I got a hold of, and I got it from Elusive Wildlife Technologies. They're out of Texas, and we're going to have their web link on our website for the outline of the show. But I ordered it's a camera mount for a bow or a gun, and basically you take your little mini DV camcorder, palm quarter, whatever you got, and it fits on this device, and it attaches to your gun or your bow. And we already film our stuff out in the field.
Yeah.
But this is going to give a unique perspective on the shot, Or another way I thought about doing this is taking, if you got somebody videotaping for you already, maybe the guy who's calling, he's got the camera also, and he's going to videotape you shooting this turkey or whatever it is. And he's on the bird, and take the camera mount, turn the camera backwards, and record yourself shooting the bird.
Yeah.
Getting your reaction shot. How cool is that?
Sweet.
It's going to be, he's going to get you shooting the bird, and then you're going to have the camera shooting yourself when you shoot the bird. So
shooting yourself when you're shooting the bird?
Yeah, with the camera, though. But we're going to try that and see how that works out. And I've yet to actually put it on the gun, but the way it's really simple the way it looks.
I think we should do that tonight.
I think we will, and we'll talk more about that next week.
It'd be cool if you could have one on each side, one pointing towards where you're shooting, one pointing towards.
Yeah, but another thing they sent with us, or with them in this package, is these things called Lumatacs. And I don't know if I talked about these last week or not. I can't remember.
I remember you talking about them.
But they're little beacons, blinking beacons that you put out in the woods for tracking.
Beeping blinkins.
And we're going to try to use these. Actually, we're not going to try. We're going to get out and use these in a real situation and figure out, number one, how long the battery lasts in them, and how far apart you can station these things in the woods before the light drops off to where you can't see them. So it's a nice little safety device. So we're going to try those. And
or didn't you say you can put them in your hat too?
All different kinds of things. I thought they're magnetic. So, like, what happens if, let's say you got a busted taillight on a trailer or on your car, burned out, and maybe the lens got broke and it's the middle of the night and you can't get it fixed. Take one of these things, turn it on, it's magnet, stick it to the back end of the car or truck or the trailer, on the bumper or whatever, and have it flashing. At least that way somebody can see you as you're going down the road as a safety device. That's one thing. And another thing I saw, which is really cool, is they've got these for boats, and they've got them in green, red, and white. Well, those are your marker lights for your boat. When you're out, when we're out duck hunting in the morning, heading to our blind, we've always had that trouble of putting marker lights on the boat because it's a small rowboat. You take these things and you put them right up on the front, your red and your green, and you put the white one on the back, and turn them on. And you're blinking away until you get across the water, and then you turn them off. Put them in the case, put them away. Yeah, so that's another little way you can use these things.
Just don't drop them in the water.
Well, they're magnet. As long as you got something magnetic, you could maybe even...
Well, my boat's aluminum, so...
Well, you could put a clamp, like a C-clamp, and clamp you a piece of metal on the front of the bow and one on the stern. So that way it's got something to stick to. And there you go.
It won't stick to aluminum, what?
No, put it metal. Like steel. A little flat piece of steel, and you just take... And on the gun wall, you take a C-clamp, clamp it down, then you stick your little blinking beacon on top of it, and away you go. So
I like that thing.
Blinking beacon. But those are pretty cool. That's one of the devices we're going to try this year.
And they just sent them to us for free.
Yeah, they sent them to us in the package with the camera mount, just to try them out. So, but another place we're trying to hook up with, and I've got to get the paperwork to them this week, is Montana Decoys. And for those of you who don't know, they're a 2D decoy. It's a flat decoy. And it's going to be interesting to try those out.
Yeah.
They got turkey decoys. They got whitetail, mule deer. I think
Predator.
I don't know if they got predator or not. They've got elk, antelope, and muleys. So we're going to try. We're going to try the 4 different turkey decoys out and see how those work out as compared to a regular 3D decoy. So we got a lot going on with that. It's moving and shaking and. Get some information out to you guys of things that you can actually use in the woods and products that are out there and see how those work out. So, one thing we did do last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, and I have not had any success at all with it. I put a trail camera out behind the house because we saw those coyote tracks through the snow. After I shot the one here, I want to say 2 weeks ago, we found fresh tracks in the snow before the snow melted. And we threw the trail camera up. I have not got pictures of anything.
They're camera shy.
And, I don't know. I was hoping to have something to report back on that, but I don't. And other than that...
I thought them deer would have got on it, though.
Yeah, evidently we had a bunch of deer come up towards the backyard this weekend while we were gone, of course. But they didn't get in front of the camera. That or the camera didn't work. But when I went back there to check it, it took a picture of me, so it's working now anyway. The one thing, here's one thing I got wrote down that I forgot to tell you guys about. I was going to tell you last week, and I forgot. Last week, we were interviewed by my TV station.
Yeah.
And
that was fun.
They did an interview about the show, the Up North Journal, right here.
On TV.
They talked to us, so we were on TV. And if you guys go to our website, upnorthjournal.com, there's a link on there to one of the two blog sites that I write for. And it's Up North Journal Podcast. No, I'm sorry. It's Up North Journal Hunting blog. Go to that, and there's a little link there you can click on and actually see the interview that we did.
Yeah, we're even more famous.
Well, I don't know about famous, but people are seeing who we are anyway.
TV.
But yeah, that worked out pretty good. So hopefully we'll get some new listeners.
Yeah.
And some new readers to the blog site. For those of you guys who haven't heard yet, I'm writing for another blog site now. It's MichiganHuntingToday.com, and my blog is called Hooks and Bullets. So go to my website, upnorthjournal.com. You'll see a link there. It says Hooks and Bullets. Go over there and check out. I'm writing over there.
It's catchy.
Yeah, I'm writing every day. So Monday through Friday. Get an article a day. And I haven't done that since college, and that's been a lot of fun.
I do it, and I don't like it.
Well, you got to do it.
I got to do it.
I get to do it because I want to. But we had two interesting topics this week. We had a cougar sighting here in Michigan, and the DNR finally confirmed it. Actually, the sighting was a while back, but they finally confirmed it this week and stood up and said, yes, there's a strong possibility that there's cougars in Michigan. Before they denied it or wouldn't even acknowledge it. And I wrote about that. And
that'd be cool starting to get cougars in Michigan.
I got a belief that they are around. I have no proof. But, yeah, that's cool, man, having cougars around. I mean, it's something you don't see every day. So
kind of like Wolverine.
Yeah, we've had one of them running around here a little while back. And one of the other things I wrote about this week that was a little controversial, stirred up a hornet's nest. Actually, it stirred up more of a hornet's nest on the website that I was reading about. It was a forum page, and it was about taking tree stands down. And here in Michigan, you can put a tree stand up September 1st, but it has to be down and out of the woods by March 1st. And people are leaving them up year-round, and that's a big controversy. What do we do? Do we not say nothing? Do we call a CO and let them come take them? Or is it abandonment if they're not labeled and you just take them yourself and keep them? Well, some people are saying that's stealing, and it's just bad hunter ethics, and it's bad hunter ethics if you leave it in the woods. So that's a big rigmarole going on right now in Michigan. There's a lot of talk of that going on.
Yeah, we actually saw them.
We've seen a lot of them left up. One area I want to hunt is full of them, and they're up year-round. So, I don't have the opportunity to go into that public area and do a hunt there because guys have got those trees locked up all year long. So it's a controversial topic, and people feel strongly one way or the other. And, everybody's entitled to their opinions on it. So, but that's one of the things I'm writing about.
Yeah.
It's, a lot of fun to hear other people's points of view and get them stirred up a little bit, get them to thinking, and that's what that site's all about. So, but other than that was our week. We did a lot.
Pretty exciting.
We did a lot in a short amount of time, and hopefully you guys can use some of these tips and techniques that we're using and putting together and use them in your hunts. So that's all I got for this week.
Yeah.
Anything else from the big game bag guy?
I don't know.
You're wore out from the trip, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to go tie some flies.
Going to go tie some more flies.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, folks, that's going to do it this week for the Up North Journal. From Mike and Mike, and as always, remember, if you're out in the woods, shoot straight and be safe until next week on the Up North Journal. Go ahead.